Hey, welcome back for a little look at the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 8. However, before we do, I wanted to make an addendum to Treehouse of Horror 7. I had completely forgotten to mention this in the previous video, but someone in my comments brought it up and I didn't want to forget it again. In Treehouse 7, the episode begins with Homer lighting a jack-o'-lantern and setting himself on fire. However, there exists an alternate opening that was never used, and I'm guessing because it would have taken more time to animate. It features an Exorcist parody with Lisa being the one possessed, while Reverend Lovejoy tries to drive the demon out. This would have been so much cooler than Homer catching himself on fire, but we can't have everything, I guess. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 8 debuted October 26, 1997, and is what I consider to be the last of the classic Treehouse episodes. I'm not saying they go straight to crap after this, but there's a definite shift in the tone from here on out. This year's opener has a Fox censor being brutally stabbed to death after censoring parts of a Simpsons script. Fox censors are notorious for going overboard when it comes to their censorship, and was something the Simpsons creators had to fight with frequently, especially when it came to the Halloween-themed episodes, so they decided to open the show by killing one of them off. Hilariously though, the Fox censors took issues with the weapon used, sound effects, and just how bloody the whole thing was. Originally, the weapon was supposed to be a dagger, but that was deemed to be too violent, so they made them change it to a cutlass, which even as a kid stood out to me as being a weird choice to stab someone with. You then get a couch gag as the Simpsons family are all electrocuted. The first segment for Treehouse 8 is the Omega Man, and has tensions between the French and Springfield at their highest, as Mayor Quimby makes a joke calling them frogs. The Simpsons family worry that the French could retaliate at any moment, so Homer goes to the nearby army surplus to find them a bomb shelter in case things get a little out of hand. Things do get out of hand when the French launch a nuclear bomb directed at Springfield and giving us our Kang and Kodos cameo.
Calling home planet. This is Ensign Kang reporting a cigar-shaped object moving at tremendous speed. Sure, Kang. I'm writing it all down.
The cameo nearly didn't make it, but writer David X. Cohen fought for its inclusion, because he knew the fans would be disappointed if they didn't make an appearance. The bomb hit Springfield, killing everyone, except for Homer, who was testing out the bomb shelter. It takes Homer longer than it should to realize everyone is dead, but once it finally hits him, he's pretty quick to move on.
It's time to laugh again!
With no one left, Homer has free run to do whatever the hell he wants, like going to the movies or dancing naked at church.
What happened to the tunes?
Homer wasn't the only one to survive. Anyone not killed by the blast was mutated into zombie-like monstrosities. Though if Threads taught me anything, the fate of those not killed by the blast would be far worse. For some reason, the mutants want to kill Homer now and begin chasing after him. They even have their own zombie mobile, aka the Freak Mobile, that I guess they had time to build after immediately turning into monsters.
Come on, we just want to eat your skin.
Go to hell, Clokey!
When Homer arrives home, he finds his family is still alive. The lead paint in the home helped protect them from the radiation, but I'm not sure how it saved them from the blast. The mutants decide that maybe they should work together and build a utopian society, but the Simpsons family has other ideas.
So, who wants to steal some Ferraris?
The Omega Man is based on the 1971 Charlton Heston movie, The Omega Man, which is about a doctor that creates a vaccine to a biological disaster and ends up being the only survivor, or at least he thinks he is, until he meets a group of mutants called the Family, which are kinda like vampires in a way, as they're sensitive to light. The Omega Man is based on the novel I Am Legend by legendary author Richard Matheson, and is actually the second adaptation. The first one was The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price. Even though this Simpsons Treehouse of Horror is the first not to have a parody of a Twilight Zone episode, it at least has a parody of a Richard Matheson story, as Richard Matheson was responsible in writing many Twilight Zone episodes. The Omega Man is a fun start to the show. I always liked the look of the mutants, and their car was pretty cool. It also has one of the best comic book guy lines when he's faced with an approaching nuke and realizes that maybe arguing with people over comic books probably wasn't the best way to spend one's time.
Oh, I've wasted my life.
There's one cut scene that shows Krusty getting incinerated by the explosion, though I don't know if it was cut because of time or the content. The censors by and large were fine with the segment, except for one little thing. When it came time for Homer to dance naked in the church, all they said was it couldn't be on the altar. He could dance anywhere else, but that was a no-no. The next segment, Fly vs. Fly, has the Simpsons at Professor Frink's yard sale, where Homer haggles down Frink for what he calls a matter transporter. Frink tries to warn Homer the dangers of the machine, but he's more interested in using it to walk upstairs, get beer from the fridge, and go to the bathroom. Although the amount of effort needed to drag this thing around the house makes me feel like it's not really worth the trouble.
Sophisticated doowacky. If you don't use it responsibly, kablamo!
Ow! Someone just punched me in the face.
Bart, not heeding his father's warning, decides to test out the teleporter with the cat Snowball when Santa's little helper jumps in with it, resulting in a pet with 2 heads and another one with 2 butts. Bart sees a fly and figures if he were to go in with it, he would become some kind of a fly superhero, even though he literally just saw his pet walk out with 2 asses.
I was hoping to be humongous. Oh well, at least I don't have 2 butts.
Obviously, it doesn't go how he imagined, and Bart ends up tiny with the body of a fly, while his body emerges with the disgusting head of one. Lisa discovers what Bart did, and within only a matter of an hour or so, they act as if everything is completely normal. Bart, now jealous that the family has accepted this monster, tries to get his family's attention that he's the real Bart. That night, Bart speaks to Lisa, who realizes he is the real Bart.
Brush. Well, that hideous creep doesn't scare me.
The fly chases and attacks Lisa when Bart tries to intervene, but is caught and eaten by the fly. Lisa hits the fly with the door to the microwave, sending the fly into the teleporter where Bart emerges back to his full self.
I'll teach you to mess with my machine!
Fly vs. Fly is an obvious parody of the 1958 film The Fly, and borrows some inspiration from its 1986 remake, mostly with the look of the teleporters. This segment might be my favorite of the bunch, and it has some genuinely creepy moments, especially when Lisa discovers the fly in her ceiling. One thing I need to give props for is the sound design. The Simpsons always has good sound effects, but something they excel at is making these gross, slimy, gooey sound effects that, even though it's a cartoon, make you feel like what you're seeing is disgusting.
Mwah.
One of my favorite moments is when Bart is in the spider's web, and just as the spider is about to eat him, Bart smacks him and he shakes his legs like, "Oh, you!" This is a fun play on what is a depressing ending for the original film. The title for Fly vs. Fly is an obvious riff on the Mad magazine Spy vs. Spy. There are several cut scenes from the segment, though I'm not sure if they are actually animated or not, as I could not find them. One had Marge and Professor Frink talking about corn holders. Another where the superhero Fly Bart saves Principal Skinner from bullies, only to then throw him into a volcano. A third where Fly Bart would find flies feeding on the corpse of a dead bird and fly away in disgust. And an alternate ending that was going to have Bart emerge along with a human-sized fly that the Simpsons family were going to ride to the mall, which sounds ridiculous even for the Simpsons. The final segment, Easy Bake Coven, has the Springfieldians burning women at the stake after being accused of witchcraft. With 75 witches burned so far, the town holds a meeting where they allow anyone to accuse someone of witchcraft.
This witch hunt is turning into a circus.
She's the witch. Yeah.
Marge is accused of witchcraft simply because her laundry comes out whiter than anyone else's. So she's given a broom and told to jump off a cliff. If she dies, they'll know she's innocent. But if she flies off, because she is a witch, she's to report back for beheading. Sort of a lose-lose situation for Marge. Marge is pushed off, and in a surprise twist, she is actually a witch.
Well, I'll be a son of a witch.
Since Marge is outed, she flies back to a creepy cave with her sisters, where they decide to start eating the town's children.
We're here to eat your kids.
The witches take Rod and Todd, but are offered gingerbread children instead. A much tastier offering, especially considering they don't have bones. The witches then go house to house collecting more treats, and decide they should turn this into a yearly tradition. And the very next year, Halloween is in full swing.
Don't pretend you're not home.
Dad, that's our house.
Easy Bake Coven is the weakest of the 3 segments. There really isn't a whole lot to it. It has some funny moments, but doesn't have much of a story. Marge is revealed to be a witch, she creates trick-or-treating, then it sort of just ends. Easy Bake Coven isn't really a parody of anything in particular, though the look of it did take inspiration from the 1996 movie The Crucible, which was about the Salem witch trials. There was also a reference to the show Bewitched when Patty and Selma refer to Homer as Durwood, which is something Endora would call Darren on the show.
You'd better run along, Durwood. We don't want you to be late for doing whatever it is you do.
So you finally left Durwood. His name is Homer.
My favorite moment of this segment is when Marge has bats burst from her hair and Homer runs away screaming, "They're in my hair, they're in my hair." This is even funnier for me because I remember walking on a trail with some family members, and when we came to this covered bridge there were bats hanging down, and one of the women with us was terrified because she thought they would get in her hair. I also enjoy the Halloween vibe at the end of the segment, which is fun. As the credits start, executive producer Mike Scully has his spooky name changed to Agent Scully. Obviously, Agent Scully being from The X-Files, which was one of Fox's biggest shows at the time. Hilariously, fans would write into the character Agent Scully, and Mike would get all of her fan mail. I can only imagine the things he received. Now, what do I think of the episode as a whole? Well, Treehouse of Horror 8 I think is actually a step up from 7. Treehouse 7 had some fun moments, but was missing the horror outside of the first segment. The Ho Mega Man is funny and the ghouls are great. Fly vs. Fly has one of the creepiest moments of any Treehouse segment period, and Easy Bay Coven, while it doesn't have a lot going on, it at least keeps the fun, spooky atmosphere you expect for a Halloween-themed episode. But just how much Halloween atmosphere does it really have? Well, to find that out, we need to use our trusty Hallow-meter. Oh wow, a 4 on the Hallow-meter. It really doesn't get more Halloween than this. Each segment attempted to bring some spooky fun to the show, so I can't argue with that result. But what do you think of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 8? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today, but we're gonna keep this terror train going as our celebration of all things scary isn't over yet. Though, is it ever? I hope you're having a creepy October and stay spooky.
Next Sunday, Halloween Screams on Fox with the Simpsons Scare-a-thon.
Well, I'll be a son of a witch.
It's the all-new Halloween Simpsons, chock full of terrifying tales.
Help! He's trying to kill me!
She's the witch.
This is crazy.
I've heard enough. Burn her!
You're mutants?
We prefer freaks. Come on, we just want to eat your skin.
Start your night with 2 classic Halloween Simpsons.
Don't be afraid.
Then prepare yourself for the all-new Treehouse of Horror. Halloween Screams with the Simpsons Scare-a-thon Sunday, starting at 7, 6 Central, only on Fox.